from my Carolina home. Had dreams about the West and started to roam. 6 long months on a dust-covered trail. They say heaven's at the end, but so far it's been hell. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. We were digging and shifting 5 to 5, selling everything we found just to stay alive. Gold flowed free like the whiskey in the bars. Sinning was the big thing, Lord, and Satan was a star. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. And blood lined the streets. Men were shot down for the sake of having fun, or just to hear the noise of their 44 guns. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. Now my widow, she weeps by my grave. Tears flow free for her man couldn't save. Shot down in cold blood by a gun that carried fame, all for the useless and no good, worthless claim. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey YouTubers and friends, thanks for joining us for another episode of Tuesday Night Hangout Live with ToledoJess, Gano, the Treasure Vixens, and I. Hey YouTubers and friends, how are all of you doing tonight? I'm doing a lot better. I've been off work the last couple of days. Killer headache, wasn't feeling well at all, but see all you out there makes me feel pretty good. Tonight we have Frank and Sharon of Exploring Abandoned Mines. They do great stuff, some awesome videos. It's gonna be a really, really, really good show. And I think I'm going to head over there and see what they're talking about right now. Your mic's hot.
There and prospecting, having
Oh,
fun.
absolutely. If you market it that way, it's a great way to get out in the countryside, get some fresh air, and have some fun. That's really what it's all about. You never, it's not going to be something you're going to get rich at. So people are looking
not at all. It's. I mean, you start off that way thinking I'm gonna make all kinds of money.
Jesse,
Prospect what?
Your mic's hot.
It's been
We're
off
live.
for a minute.
Well, I was having a conversation here. Why'd you do that?
I know. I was enjoying it, actually. But...
Bastard.
maybe.
Yeah.
I'll let Sharon entertain you for a bit.
Yeah. See what I gotta put up with, people? See what I gotta put up with? What's up, Ben? What's up, Rose?
Oh,
you know it's gonna be a good show when Jess is already interviewing. It's gonna be a great show.
Oh yeah, sometimes it's hard to save it for the show.
He's got look. Our guest tonight has some really cool videos. If you're into exploring and not a lot of us have gone into mines and stuff. I went into one once in Nevada, and that was just really awesome. So watching this guy's videos, it's really cool seeing the stuff that he finds. And the dude takes some chances, and he's got someone.
Let alone the dude. What about the dudette? Sharon.
I was just getting there, Ed. I was just getting there. Let me finish what I was saying.
Okay.
And then I believe it's his wife. Boy, she's a climber, man. She'll go anywhere he goes, beats him up there half the time. I mean, she's got his back. But anyways, hi everybody. I'm a little excited about our guest tonight because they both do some really cool videos.
Well, it looks like we have a Jersey history hunter raid. Awesome dudes. Thank you very much. Vendetta Prospecting, thank you for the super chat.
Spider Race Prospecting, what's up? Nikki Prospecting, Nikki B, what's up?
Kevin, Carey, and Ellsworth. Oh, the pumpkin bread is delicious.
Oh, dude, where's my slices at? Yes, pumpkin bread. Wait, don't go away.
Jesse said he was going to eat some on the air. I would, but
I'm not sure when this is going to...
Oh, this is so good. Smells so good. So
You
good.
want to see something really cool? This is a chunk of silver, galena.
My goodness.
Here, let me
Shiny,
pin you
eh?
up so you can show everybody.
Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Good stuff.
Um,
Don't forget the world's greatest moderator, Mr. Lodak. What's up, buddy?
we
he
have
said
a
it was- yeah,
lot
he
of
said
great
class.
people in here tonight. Thank you all very much for coming. I know we usually name a bunch of you right off the bat, but sorry, these guys are. I'm really excited about this show with our guests. So
Yeah, like we can do it while Jess is eating. Quick, guys.
yeah,
What's going on, everybody? What's up, Pinger? What's hey, Richard Davis? Hello, Mayor Videos. Nikki B. I'm sorry I missed you last week. I'm so bummed about that. Mark Miller. Good evening. How about that? I just squeezed it in there, guys. Sorry.
Eminem, everybody, good to see you. Hi, Susan Wolf. So I caught in the video before that you've always been into exploring and going into mines. I take it you've lived in a mining district up in BC pretty much all your life, Frank?
No, that's not true. I was actually a cattle rancher till I retired, and but I had an airplane, so I was flying around and flew over a huge mine here at Phoenix. And when I was a kid, we explored some mines, and it looks like I don't know a hornet's nest or something with huge holes everywhere. And I decided to go down there and explore it. And that was about 6 years ago, and I haven't really stopped.
Because everyone thinks Phoenix.
Not Phoenix, Arizona. It was Phoenix, British Columbia. It was a big mining town that started around the turn of the century and was a huge copper mine. They had the second biggest smelter in the British Commonwealth here, and it shut down in 1920. So it was a huge copper deposit here. So yeah.
You weren't a miner then, huh?
I was not. No, I've never
No.
been.
Do you mine now?
I do not. No, we're just interested in.
Wait a minute. You're just a mine explorer.
That's right. Yeah, that's all
Awesome.
I do.
That's
We've
cool.
been in hundreds of mines all the way from Mexico all the way up to Alaska, but I've never. I'm not really rich enough to start mining.
That was part of the conversation we were having. Yeah, it costs a lot of money to make.
People always say you got to buy a mine. It's, oh, we're making really good money on YouTube, but not quite enough to do that.
Yeah, that's funny. So I've been watching your videos off and on for a while now, you know, and I watched a lot of videos and I stay away from it for a while. I think one of the first ones, oh man, been a couple of years, I think now. How long have you been doing them?
Oh, it'll be 6 years now. So I think we got 243 videos or something. We make one every week, right? So yeah.
Right. And what's your channel again? Throw out your channel there.
Exploring abandoned mines.
All right, look at that. You got
Plus, you
some
can read the
put
t-shirts,
link
eh?
in. Yeah. Oh yeah. Show the shirt. Nice shirt.
Yeah, that's a good looking shirt.
Well, hers looks even better.
Let's see.
Oh, I don't know.
Whoa, wrong one.
Well, she's better looking than I am, so.
They
Yeah,
both
Those
look
are your
good.
t-shirts.
I like that logo of yours, Frank.
Yeah, it's a good looking logo.
So you said you went, what did you say was the first time you went in? And what made you decide you wanted to do that again or go back? Because I remember I went in one and it was really cool, but it wasn't something that I wanted to do again.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I mean, there's lots of people on YouTube that kind of casually explore mines, but the really interesting things in mines are a long ways down that are hard to get at. So we have a lot of rope climbing equipment, and we've been hundreds of feet below the surface where people just can't get. The casual tourists will go in a mine with a cell phone or something. There's nothing really interesting to see in those types of mines. So
Right.
you really have to go into the into the nasty stuff. And, there's bats and rats, and you're in waist deep water and down shafts, and the more fun stuff, actually. So that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, I noticed you have no problem looking down in the hole and going, yeah, I can get down there. There you go.
I've got to follow Sharon, like she's usually down there before me, right? So I got to follow her.
Filming you coming down.
Were you into spelunking at all, or at all before you started exploring caving?
Well, splunking is people that explore caves, which
Right.
we don't do that much because there's nothing really interested in caves. They're just like a hole in the ground. What we find more interesting is what the miners left behind. We're talking about explosive boxes, dynamite, their equipment, ore cars, trains, and all that kind of stuff. So we're more excited about seeing the old parts of history and what the miners left behind. We actually we were in Arizona. We found 7 pairs of jeans from the 1800s that were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, actually, that we didn't get to keep.
Right.
Pretty cool to see them. Yeah.
I've seen how you restored that ore cart you found too, and how the hell did you get that back home?
Well, we took it all. So we took it all apart in small pieces. The wood was all rotted. So here in Grand Forks, they had a large smelter here. So the slag's still here from the smelter. So what they do is they ship it to America, and the U.S. Navy uses it to restore their the warships for sandblasting. So they give us all the slag that we want for sandblasting. So we sandblasted all the metal parts off it and ordered all new wood, and the one that was made out of wood that mules pulled in the mines around the turn of the century. That's that one. We have about 5 work carts, different steel ones, wooden ones, and different things we have.
I was going to ask you, in your explorations and stuff, when you find cool stuff, do you bring that stuff up with you to try to preserve it? Do you do anything like? Do you bring it up and try to preserve it? Yeah, right. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. Generally speaking, we try to get kind of one of every unique thing that we can, and we have a 4,000 square foot museum. And try to restore that so we can show people, what this stuff is like. After a while, you start seeing the same things. We don't bring up every possible thing we can find, and we don't ever sell anything. So we're not in this business to make money and sell stuff, or we don't never do that. But the unique stuff that we find in mines that's just getting all rusted and buried anyhow, we try to save that and bring it here. What we're doing right now is we're building a gravity tram. Trams used to be all over the place where before they had roads and stuff, and they just had horses in steep country. They built all these trams, and there's none operating that we know of. So we got 3 beautiful tram cars and cable and stuff. So we're going to build the towers, and we're going to build a working tram here at the museum, so people can see how this stuff kind of works.
Tell us a little more about your museum. Is it strictly mining equipment, or? That's
it. Yeah, just mining stuff. We have, there's a collection of minerals in there, there's, different samples of silver, gold, and different minerals. And there's also some shelves and some bottles, but we try not to get into other stuff. It's mostly all mining equipment. So we have a huge compressor in there. So we have air powered chainsaw, locomotive, muckers, drills, and all that kind of stuff that actually works. So we fire that up so we can show people how this equipment actually worked. We have it working in there too. So yeah.
So in this museum, do you have like old historical equipment and more modern as coming up into modern time?
No, we don't have much modern stuff. It's pretty much all old school stuff. There's very little underground mining anymore. It's just too expensive. The only exception is there's some gold mines underground, but back in the day, pretty much all mining was done underground. Probably by about the 1930s, that kind of got phased out because, they got big cats and hoes and stuff, and they just do open pit mining now. It's really boring. So all the interesting, there's actually a small period underground mining that was interesting from the late 1800s when they invented the air-powered drills and the dynamite. They were able to tunnel fairly cheaply and remove the ore, and then kind of got phased out by about the 1930s when they started having big cats, hoes and drills and stuff where they just did stuff on the surface. So, there's a really cool period of when they did that, and that's what we kind of focused on.
Where's your museum located?
Oh, right beside my house in Grand Forks, British Columbia. So we're actually only a half mile from the U.S. border. I can see the states from here. So we're just north of Washington in that area.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but
The other
isn't
end of the
it
country.
kind of
For me.
as the bird flies, you're right above us in Washington, but by driving wise, isn't it like, let's say from Sumas? How far are you from the border crossing in Sumas? Or
A long way. So we're closer to Spokane than Seattle. So about halfway between Spokane and Seattle, straight north, right? So yeah.
okay, so I guess closer would be the crossing by Oroville then.
Actually, a couple hours east of that. So there's a whole south of us. There's just a whole bunch of small towns in Washington. We're close to Danville, which is just a post office. Curlew, they're just little tiny. But there's all kinds of really cool mines in Washington too that we haven't really been into too much because the border's closed. So most Americans don't realize this, but it's not really possible to travel from America to Canada because of the COVID. So the border's been closed to non-essential travel. And even you can't drive across the border now. We could fly across the border, but then you'd be quarantined for 2 weeks before you come back into Canada. And it's virtually impossible to go across there just as a tourist today.
One of our friends, Chris, in Washington. So are you in the Canadian Okanagan?
My what?
Yeah, kind of in the Okanagan.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're pretty. You have like Nighthawk below you, and some really small.
Yeah, we're a little bit east of Nighthawk, so yeah. There's lots of crossings to go into Washington all along the border here, but they're all. Nighthawk is a small one. The Soyuz is a bigger crossing, and then there's a whole bunch of just kind of small backcountry roads all the way along here where there's little border crossings.
Okay.
There isn't even a fence along here. They're just they cut about 30 feet of bush through there. There's no big wall or anything here. There's not even a barbed wire fence along the border here, so it's kind of on the honor system. But if you kind of sneak across the states, you'll probably run into guys with AK-47s that are kind of nasty that want to search you in places you don't want to have searched. So you try to avoid that.
Right. I've lived in Washington State for several decades before I moved here. I was 2 counties south of the Canadian border in Skagit Valley.
Okay, yeah. Before 9/11, there wasn't really much of a border here. I mean, it was really casual, but the world's changed, and now it's pretty uptight about the border. So
Yes. Right. Big time. So we had a question. Somehow we always get to this subject because I guess we're that way.
Everybody likes
it. Being in mines and being deep down like that in there, do you ever run into Tommy knockers? Do you ever?
No, we're completely stable. No, when I was a kid, I never saw no ghosts under my bed. The closet was clean. No, I don't know. It's I guess we spend a lot of time underground. We're pretty comfortable under there. It isn't a foreign environment. But for someone that's not used to being underground, and it's dark and there's so much stuff going on there, your imagination can get the better of you. But no, there's no little men running around there. And it's, you know, there's other channels that make a big deal out of it on YouTube. We've kind of shied away from that. You know, there's enough real dangers underground. You really don't have to make any of them up.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of let that lead into, what about physical dangers? Have either of you been injured while doing any of this, or maybe had a time where you felt like you shouldn't have been where you were at because of how dangerous the cave was?
Yeah, you know, in British Columbia, we can't find any instance of anyone ever been injured or killed exploring abandoned mines. Lots of people get injured and killed in mines. Actually, just a couple of weeks ago, they were drilling underground and they were drilling and hit some water and it killed a driller. So, but the reason is, I mean, you're handling explosives. There's people running equipment and different things going on. It's kind of like if you went to where they were logging somewhere and you were wandering around there and trees are falling and there's machines going, that's a pretty dangerous place. If you were just kind of sneaking around there at night there and all the machines are parked, there's nothing really that's gonna hurt you if you don't touch anything, right? And It's the same thing with mines. I mean, obviously, if you're using ropes to go down shafts and there's loose stuff and all that, you need to be kind of careful. You ought to make sure you got lots of light. There's no problems with the air. So long as you're taking all the proper precautions, you don't touch anything. If you're going into mines that have lots of loose rock and rotten timbers, you know, if you touch something, you can set off a landslide. You know, there's lots of things that could happen. But so long as you're careful, you know what you're doing, the risks are minimal. I mean, you know, every year here's all kinds of people get killed, snowmobiling in avalanches and in quads and all these different things. In America especially, I mean, there's a lot of money in filling in old mines and stuff because they say they're dangerous with the BLM and all that kind of stuff. But the fact is, most people that actually get killed around abandoned mines are swimming in quarries, stuff on the surface, and you know, there obviously is dangers in that. As the same as if you're hiking around cliffs and stuff. If you fall over a cliff, you could fall over and die. I mean, lots of things could happen. But yeah, so you know, it's if you don't go beyond your abilities and use some common sense, they're not really that dangerous.
Well, you know the thing about common sense, right? It's not that common.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we run into old dynamite mines and stuff, and you have dynamite that's got nitroglycerin sweating out. If you pick it up and stuff, yeah, it's you know, you kill yourself easy, you know. But yeah, so we don't try to encourage people to go underground, and we just tell them it's pretty dangerous and all that kind of stuff. But they can do whatever they like. I think you know, if people are interested in exploring mines and they watch our stuff, they might have a better understanding about what some of the hazards are and try to avoid some of them. So I think in that way we probably have, you know, we don't encourage people to go underground necessarily, but if they're interested in it, they can watch a little bit of it and hopefully reduce the risk for them.
Yeah, learn just a little bit of something before they go in there.
I mean, there's people exploring abandoned mines way before YouTube and before we started doing it. So yeah.
Oh, I've been in a few myself back home in Washington.
I was saying earlier, I've been in one in Nevada, and it was a mine shaft, went about 100 feet, tungsten mine, and it was just amazing under there. But it's not anything that I would want to do again. You know, I do have an addictive personality, but not with everything. So, but it was. I learned a lot of stuff down there. There's lots of dangers down there that, you know, widowmakers and, you know, just all kinds of things down there. But
for us, it's probably more dangerous, you know, getting to the mine, you know, in a truck or a side-by-side or something than it is actually being in the mine. But, you know, for 99.5% of the people that watch our videos, they have no intention of ever going to a mine. They just like to learn about it and see what. It's almost like a snapshot going back in the time. I mean, you think about the old towns of the Old West where they had, you know, the streets and the sidewalks and all that kind of stuff. Could you imagine if you just walk down the street and see all this kind of stuff? And sometimes being in a mine, it's almost like a snapshot going back 100 years ago where that kind of stuff is like that. So
right, when you start seeing that old equipment. Yeah. Absolutely. So have you? Let's go. And some of these mines that you've been into, they've used a lot of mules and ponies for pulling carts, right?
Yeah, you bet. Before the turn of the century, they didn't really have much equipment and stuff, and they were smaller. You know, when they first started mining, basically like the gold and silver ore stuff were pretty much right on the surface. And the mom and pop operations, they could just start mining this stuff out of there, and it wasn't very complicated. But as you know, the ore that easy ore got depleted, same like placer mining. I mean, when the first people started going to the creeks and stuff, they could just about shovel gold nuggets out of the bottom of the creek, right? You know, but that easy stuff got deleted, and then you know, the bigger companies got in, and they got into more complicated operations with you know, with big trains and all that. So you know, there was an evolution of that. You know, all that easy ore is all gone, been gone for a long time. So you know, it got more complicated and more difficult to get the ore, right?
Oh, you know, speaking of getting that ore, and that video, the constipation mine, or no?
Constellation.
Yeah, not constipation.
Not constipation.
Mine, not the constipation. Well, I'll tell you what, even though it was cleared out, that thing looks pretty constipated with a lot of quartz vein running through there. Oh my gosh, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was so was any of that gold bearing still, or?
Well, I guess that's the thing. I mean, when the miners are going through they dug all them tunnels and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, just because there's quartz there doesn't mean there's any gold in it. Often gold is in quartz, but obviously there wasn't in that case. Otherwise, they would have mined. If that was ore body material, they would have mined it out of there. So
mine all that out, right?
Yeah. So.
But it was really that. See, that was amazing to see a vein that big. You know, I mean, it was huge. That whole cavern was the vein in the vein. Wow.
Yeah. We've seen that in some mines where you just see, and that is, you know, that is a large quartz vein, but we've seen sometimes they'll just go to mine, all of a sudden it's just a huge quartz vein, but they didn't mine it. So, you know, back in the old days when they did that, they took those samples to the assayer, and then you know, you assayed them, and they told you what it was, and not all quartz hosts minerals like gold, silver, and stuff. Some does, some doesn't. It's an indicator, right? Yeah.
Right. So you're thinking there wasn't any gold there, or they just? I mean,
there certainly wasn't there. No, although they would have continued mining, and they didn't. So you didn't see. If that was really, if that was, you know, there was a lot of minerals in there, there would have been a big stope. They would have mined that out, but they didn't. They just went through it. So there wasn't there. No.
Oh, okay. So you didn't grab any samples to check it out yourself. And do you do that?
We don't, because first of all, we don't own the minerals. So I mean, there's companies that own they own those minerals, so you know, technically be stealing if you took a bunch of those samples.
Yeah, a lot of those are still like patented. Are they patented or still claimed?
No, they're not patented. They don't have patented mines here. You know, but sometimes somebody owns the surface and somebody owns the minerals. There's two different titles, right?
Right.
So if you own some land and there's minerals underneath it, you don't not really entitled to the minerals, right? So so it's kind of two separate things, but there is somebody that has the mineral rights to it. So, you know, you can't go in there. They can't do nothing about you going in there and walking through the mines. But if you take the ore, they do own the minerals, right? They have the right to the minerals.
Right.
So here we have like crown lands. Mostly all the mines are on land that nobody owns the surface rights. But if you stake a claim, you own the rights to the minerals. Same with the logging company would own the rights to the timber, or a rancher would own the rights to the grass there. So if you're removing those minerals, you are infringing on someone's rights. So we don't typically take, we might see a shiny rock, might take that in our pocket, but you know, we don't, you know, we're not taking the minerals. So.
Yeah, taking a bunch of minerals out to try to, you know, extract the ore or the value out of it.
Yeah, so there's no advantage or no reason for us to take samples and sample the ore because we don't own it, and you know, so what's the point? Yeah.
You will bring back a pretty rock once in a while, right?
Yeah, we do that. Yeah. Everyone does that.
Yeah.
We're not going to say where it came from, but it's
no, it's a pretty rock you found. That's fine. That's fine.
So
Those
gold
would
Yeah,
chasers,
mostly
after
come
us.
off the ore dumps, though, right?
What do you say?
Those would come mostly off the ore dumps. A little sample or something.
Well, we just try to, like in our little museum or something, we have a lot of different types of mineral types. So we got serpentinite and like
Right.
of asbestos and silver and gold bearing stuff and I'm not a geologist, I'm not a genius and all that kind of stuff, but we just have different and there's also stuff that the natives and stuff made arrowheads out of called what? Not flint, but yeah, there are different things that are kind of interesting that we see.
Obsidian?
Obsidian.
Kurt.
Not obsidian. We have obsidian, so most of that is just melted rock from the smelters. What's it called? I don't remember. It's kind of a tan colored. It's really cool. You just kind of chip it off. You can make arrowheads just by breaking them up there.
Stuff that glows in the dark.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We have phosphorescent minerals and stuff that we have black light and stuff. They can a lot of different colors and stuff. That's pretty interesting too. Fluorite. So fluorite is an industrial mineral, but it really shows up underground, and it's interesting to see too. So.
Gold chasers would like us to ask you, Frank, what's your favorite beer?
My favorite what?
Beer.
Beer.
Oh, extra old stock, but we can't even get it anymore. In the States, there's ice or something like that. We don't like most of the American beers, like really weak. We like to have like nothing really under 5%. We'd even consider beer. It's just for kids and stuff. So anything that's got alcohol in it seems to be a good beer.
I can agree with you on that.
Like, going to Utah or something like that. I mean, you go there and there's Bud and Bud Light, but it all has like 3.2% alcohol. That is it. I don't know. You couldn't even buy any whiskey to mix in it to kind of juice it up. It was a disgrace. But they've smartened Utah up. It's probably worth visiting now, but it was really bad when we were there.
I don't know if it's changed much. I think they still have lower alcohol percentages there.
No, they changed it last year when we were there. All of a sudden, there's beer with alcohol in it. Yeah.
Finally.
All right.
So I think, I can't remember if it was pre-chat or at the very beginning of the show, but you mentioned you found those 100-year-old jeans. Why were they so well preserved? Was it just in a really dry area? I mean, did you guys just luck out with that?
Yeah, it was, so when we found them, it was in Castle Dome. It's a really dry area and it's really dusty. So a bunch of them we found on the surface, and they just found some denim, and then we just dug out and found more. There's been lots of kind of speculation as to why there would be a bunch of old jeans there. A lot of it people talk about there must have been a bunch of faggots mining there or something. They took their clothes off. But no, I think probably what it was is my theory is probably they hit a really rich load of silver or gold or something like that. And maybe the mine owners as a treat or something, because the miners, sometimes they didn't have much money and they're kind of working in rags. They just sent a whole bunch of new jeans down for the crews and stuff, and they just took their old clothes off there and threw them in a pile, and then they had new jeans. So that's probably the best. And the other thing is sometimes you find a lot of denim and stuff where if they just had old rags, they use them for sealing off cracks or wiping off the tools. But some of them we found were in really good shape. I mean, they looked like you just put them on and wear them, and other ones are just rags and they were just poor shape. So, but I don't know. That was just kind of a guess that we didn't know why they were there.
Never know.
Yeah, you mentioned that you didn't get to keep them. What happened with that?
No. Well, the deal we made, so Castle Dome is like a museum there, and they have a bunch of old mines. They take people on tours. And so we asked them, he said, well, is there some mines that we get underground that are interesting? He said, oh, absolutely. So we showed up there, and I said, well, you guys have a museum. Anything of historical significance we find underground, we'll just give you. So we went down there, and true to our word, we just gave it to them. So a little disappointing. I mean, we found, it was worth quite a lot of money, and he didn't even say thanks to us. And we thought, well, maybe we'd take one rip pair and put it in our museum. We never did. But anyways, we're not complaining about it. We we enjoyed going in there, and we got to shoot some cool video of it. So yeah.
You just have to remember to reword your contract there a little bit.
Yeah, well, when we found all those, and he said, well, there's probably more there, we'd get you in there and do that. And I said, well, so the deal we made there, we give you that, then that's fine. But, it's really tough going down there. It was a long ways down. It's really dusty and all that kind of stuff. We'll go in there and find some more, but we're going to have to renegotiate our contract. But he didn't want to talk to us after that. But it was kind of funny. There's a guy that's a denim expert. His name is Prete, really cool guy. He knows everything about denim, and he went in there after us, and he was kind of guy that I got to know. And he went in there and excavated a whole bunch more stuff, and apparently he didn't find anything. Like, we don't really know, but he didn't find anything more. So anyway, so that was the story. So maybe he was smarter than us. I'm not really sure, but so a lot of people say, well, why would you just stuck a bag or some of them in your bag, not say nothing? But say if we did, and we're not really in it for the money, but what would you do with them? You can't sell them or do nothing with them anyhow. I mean, obviously people are going to know where they came from. So,
right.
Yeah.
Negotiate a better deal next time. That's all.
Yeah, keeping your word though, following through on your end really does make you guys, honorable and will keep you continued to be invited back to other places. So it's a shame it worked out that way, but you guys, you took the high road.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I did actually find an old jean jacket up in when I first started up here in Phoenix, Canada. But it was not a very good denim jacket. One sleeve was ripped off. It wasn't in that good a shape. And this other guy's name was Corey. I can't remember his last name. Was Pikowski, and he was one of these denim guys that Brett knew. And he said, "Oh, you got this really cool denim jacket. We'd like to." You want to sell it? And I said, well, I don't feel good about selling artifacts I find in mines, but I'm not really interested in denim anyhow. If you would trade it for something that we could use in our museum. And so he gave me this really cool miner's hat that was leather and wood, and it had a cool carbide lamp on it, even though he did offer me $250 American for it. And so we made that trade, so we're happy with that. And and he got this denim jacket, but we're not really interested in clothing anyhow, or it's not really a mining thing. So yeah.
Yeah. So I always try to narrow down this question because whenever we're asked this question, it gets a little frustrating. But some of your cool finds, like what is your prized possession at your museum? What's your biggest display that you have found so far?
We have quite a lot of things. What I really enjoy is the signs we find underground from the mines from years and years ago about the different drip levels and the hoists, and then dynamite boxes. We have a pretty big collection of dynamite boxes, and dynamite boxes usually have the year on them. So we have a bunch from 1918 and live explosives and stuff that we've taken the dynamite out of. We just put gravel in, and we have them in our museum. So we kind of enjoy anything to do with explosives. So we have old, like the Coyote and the Roadrunner, where you blow stuff. We've got a bunch of those, and the old boxes and signs and stuff. So we kind of enjoy that, and of course we worked hard to get the work carts. We've Sharon and I were in some mines, and we've recovered a bunch of parts from work carts and restored them. So yeah, it's kind of a variety of stuff. There isn't anything that really kind of sticks out necessarily. We kind of enjoy all these different things that we have.
What
So are you talking about that video where you had all those, where you were in the workshop where the ore cars were being worked on?
No, we didn't get anything out of there. That's kind of an operating mine.
No, I didn't ask you that, but that's the type of situation you're talking about, though, right? I mean, finding places like that.
We actually there was a TV show that's coming out. It is going to be on TV this month on the History Channel. It's a new show called Backroads Truckers, and so they came here and we took a bunch of them underground, and we discovered this old ore cart, dug it out, and brought it out in pieces, and it was kind of cool because this TV show paid me for taking these people down here or whatever, and we restored it at the museum. So that was a cool thing. So we got this old ore cart from back in and we found other ones from the 1800s, old ore carts and parts of them, and restored them. And yeah, so they were kind of interesting.
Man, that's cool that you're building a museum. Is it full yet, or how much more you got to go before you think you're full?
It's 4,000 square feet. It's 100 by 40. So, all that stuff's inside. We're continually having, as we find something else, we have to rearrange stuff to make it fit. So,
Whatever.
yeah.
Is there something that you're hoping to find that
take
has
an
been
item.
eluding you for a while?
Well,
One thing.
Maybe I have to ask Sharon. I talk about this stuff, but I kind of forget about it. I mean, is there something that I'm really looking for? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah. There is one thing. So we're looking for an electric locomotive. We've got an air-powered locomotive. We don't have an electric locomotive. So we'd like to get an electric locomotive and then have a kind of a railway outside where we could charge up that electric locomotive and then have a little bit of track outside and have that part of it where we could run the train from inside to outside. And then the other thing was about the tram cars that we're going to set up, or the trams and stuff. So we're actually very fortunate this fall. So when they were smelting copper, what they do is they just they take coal and stuff in furnaces and copper and gold and silver too. Back in the old days, they used to take all the ore and just melted the ore and then just floated the slag off, which is 98% of it's just the country rock. And then the gold, the copper, and the silver went to the bottom, was heavier. And then they poured molds of this stuff. So they found out back in Chicago, they invented another process called what's it called?
Converter.
A converter. And so what they did is normally when they just poured these molds of copper, it would only be about, 80 to 85% pure because of the impurities in it. So they put the molten copper in there and they blew a whole bunch of air into it. So the air made kind of froth on the surface and it blew this froth off, which was other impurities. And they were able to make blister copper that was 99.3% pure. And then, so this was a converter. So this mill they had, or this smelter they had here, they found some of these old converters are like a huge machine. And we were able to get one of those for the museum. So we got it sitting outside. It weighs about 10,000 pounds, the big converter. So we have that sitting outside. So that is too big to fit inside the museum. So that was a cool part of technology. And when you find this kind of stuff, you start doing the research. It was Alice Chalmers in Chicago that built these things. Alice Chalmers was a huge mining equipment company that's bankrupt now. That was in America and Chicago that made all kinds of cool stuff. So it's always kind of cool to find this and you do the research and then you find out about the history behind all this equipment.
I hear Alice Chalmers and I'm thinking, tractors and plows.
Yeah, they made tractors too. Yeah, they made tractors, but they were the largest mining equipment manufacturers back around the turn of the century out of Chicago. And then they also made all kinds of stuff like jaw crushers and primer crushers and stuff. And they also in Canada they made them also, but the company was based out of Chicago.
Cool.
How do you get some of those heavy things out of there?
This one they got it in the smelter. They had a huge hoe there, 750 a Volvo or something, and they just lifted onto a big truck and moved it here. But the other stuff that I worked in the oil patch with winch tractors and all that kind of stuff, and we got a 1 ton. We actually have a bigger Dodge now, and it's the same technology. Basically, just take winches and just suck it up in there and bring it here. And we got a tractor and stuff like that. So the bigger stuff that we have, it's pretty heavy. We're able to move with the same technology that you move drilling rigs with. I guess it's just kind of scaled down version of farmers and stuff that know how to do stuff in the backcountry, right?
Right. Well, no, I saw another question here a minute ago. Hang on.
Well, Nikki has one. I know you've been down to Mexico. Name one place in the world you would love to go explore mines in.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty easy question to answer. The place that I'd love to go is Paris, France, to go to the catacombs. And I don't know if you guys know that, but the the whole city of Paris is built on a huge limestone formation, and they mined all that limestone out from underneath the city to build the whole city. So there's hundreds of miles of tunnels and abandoned stuff from the Middle Ages, and there's all kinds of cool stuff that they put down there because it was like their garbage dump. And the one thing in Europe and stuff, all the graveyards and stuff, they bury somebody in a graveyard. Real estate's really expensive there. They only keep them there for about 100 years, and then they just dig their bones up and they stuff them down the catacombs. So there's 5 to 6 million skeletons down underneath there in portions where there's 10 feet high of skulls and bones and stuff in there. And it's not a place where most people can go, but it's a fascinating part of history and stuff in Europe.
You take this question from Ron. From Ron, you take it.
Run for the hills, mining. Sorry, buddy, I'm not gonna do it. I was sick the last 2 days. Have you come across any old hit and miss engines, motors?
What?
Hit and miss engines.
We did actually. We and that's the debate or something that we had. The California people are kind of really nasty. They think that everything that's in a mine should be left there, but I'm of the opposite opinion. I think most of the stuff should be pulled out of the mines and saved and restored. And we were in an old mine, and I didn't remember which one it was. And we come across an old hit and miss engine that was there. It was all rusted. And somebody watched my video, and they went in there, pulled this old engine out of way underneath there, and they took this whole thing apart, and they got it running. It's on display, and I saw a video of it running. I thought, how awesome is that? This old piece of rusted stuff that was in there, maybe it'd be buried, and someone took it out there and took it all apart and got it restored. Right. So, you do see that underground. Is not common, but it's more common to see that stuff on the surface because these motors and stuff. Because when you're underground, obviously miners have to breathe the same air that these motors are running in. So normally compressors and high tension engines are on the surface, which is easier for people to get out. And years ago when scrap metal was worth a lot more, a lot of this stuff was just carted off and sold for scrap. So you don't usually see that kind of stuff underground. So normally the stuff you see underground is we see stuff will run on compressed air, like chainsaws run on compressed airs and winches and hoists and that kind of stuff. But we did find them that one time. So yeah.
So Canadian Gold Mining asked a question for you, Frank. Are you looking for any specific items for donation for your museum? Like, is there something that you wish somebody would donate?
Well, that's an interesting question. We've got all kinds of really awesome donations, and typically what happens is somebody that's interested in mining or whatever has got this, he's getting older and he's got this in his garage or his house, and he dies, and then the kids come along and he's got this junk in his garage, and they don't want to haul it off to the dump, and then they find out someone's got a museum and they bring it here, and we had this we got this really cool forge and a blower from the forge and all this and this kind of stuff, and people do donate that to us. So that's was the other cool aspect of the museum. And the other thing is that people ask us, what's going to happen to all this stuff after you die? And we're wanting to set up a nonprofit organization that could have this property actually after I'm gone, and hopefully that would take the revenue. We get pretty good revenue from the YouTube, and even after I'm gone and not gone anymore, people watch this stuff. We get an average of probably about 15,000 people a day now that are watching our stuff, and it creates a considerable amount of revenue. So we'd like to see that a foundation or something get that revenue and get the property and keep it that way. So I don't know. There's all kinds of cool stuff that we see that we've never seen before, and it's hard to answer that question. There's something obviously anything to do with that. We've got a number of old engines and stuff like that we don't have running, but they turn over, like an old Crosley engine and stuff that the Crosley engines 17.5 horsepower engine that weighs 4,400 pounds, that runs at 500 RPM, and it turns over and all that, but it's pretty complicated to get it running because it doesn't use a radiator. You have to use a water jacket, use a shotgun shell to get it running, and a whole bunch. It's not a really complicated piece of equipment, but if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to screw it up. So we'd love to have some old guys that really know these engines and you have them running. And for people, we don't think there's a lot of money in it, but there's definitely the technology and the knowledge to know how to. It's not necessarily a matter of restoring it because it turns over and everything, but you need to know how to operate it too.
So somebody's time in helping you get that running and possibly showing you how to keep it running and will be of great value to you.
Yeah, you bet. Because you look on the Crosley engine that we have, there's old catalogs of these old engines that are over 100 years old. We see it on YouTube where people got them running in Europe and stuff like that, and they're pretty cool. They got them fired up and they're running and all that kind of stuff. But I don't really know how to operate it, and they're kind of complicated. They start off on gas and they switch over to diesel, and once you get it running, they usually they're generating electricity or something, or running something. They just run all the time. It's not something you just go there and fire up.
And you start them up with a shotgun shell.
Yeah, there's two ways you can start this one up. You can have a bunch of guys turn the flywheel and start it over, and the other way is there's a shotgun shell. You put it in there. You have to get it right at top dead center and everything all set up, and then you just squeeze it, and just go poof, and then it goes. They're fascinating pieces of equipment, but they're kind of a little finicky. I mean, you got to know what you're doing to have them running, right?
Yeah, I can imagine. So, any of you old-time mechanics know how to fix those type of engines, there you go. Let's see anything else. Cut that off there. See what's going on in the chat room. Anybody got any questions over there?
Random guy. He said, I like your pneumatic slusher. And he also commented about, don't you have a hit and miss, or is that a compressor? It's near the front by the big door. So.
Oh, the front by the big doors. That's the Crosley engine. So.
Oh, that's the one you
Yeah,
like.
the green one. That's the Crosley engine. Yeah, that's the big one there. So. Did you guys, did the viewers see our chunk of galena here? So this is,
Look at that again.
we'll show it to us. So this is mostly silver. So galena is silver, lead, and zinc. So this is what they mostly mined here that they made in this area. I made some of these mines made hundreds of millions of dollars with this stuff back in the old days. So
what do you do to get the silver out of that? You said it's mixed up. Is that they melt it down and then?
Yeah, well, back in the old days, this rich ore, it just went to a smelter, so they basically just melted it, silver and lead. And there was actually, the funny thing is gold and silver are pretty sexy metals. Everyone's interested in that. But the fact is, if you look back in the old mining reports, they made more money from things like lead back then. Lead was pretty valuable. Nobody wants to talk about lead mines. and zinc back then was despised. The smelters didn't want it. Now there's more money in zinc than there's in any of those things, and people don't want to talk it. But back in the old days, when that ore was there's smelters everywhere, and basically they just melted that stuff, and it's heavy, so it just went to the bottom. They just poured it out. There was actually pretty simple technology. Today, the grades that easy, silver and stuff is gone now, so they're having to put it through mills to concentrate it. So there's something called a froth flotation. So what they do is they grind this, in gold and silver, they grind it to a real fine, almost like a flour, and then they use oxides and stuff, and they blow bubbles into a formation of sometimes cyanide and different chemicals depending on the makeup of it, and then they blow air into it, and it makes bubbles on the top, and the minerals stick to the froth, and then they skim the froth out, and they make a flotation, a concentrate out of it, and then it goes to a smelter. So they have to concentrate it because the ore grades now are far less than they used to be. All that easy stuff is gone. So there's hardly any smelters even left. Most of that stuff is shipped now from the mines now that's still mining this offshore into into smelters in China, Japan, and different places, and there's some in America also. But it's totally different game than it used to be back in the old days, where mom and pop could just go in there and with a pickaxe and get a little bit of this rich ore and ship it to a smelter down the road and get the money from the silver. It's completely different than it used to be.
That's insane.
My experience with silver was in Nevada back in the early 70s, working at a silver mill where we were extracting silver out of a tailings pile that got flooded down into a valley.
Yeah.
And we extracted using cyanide, settling ponds, and then running it through a filter system, gathering all that up, and then running it into, I think he went to Reno, where they had a smelt down there, and he'd come back with his bars of silver. You know, that was pretty cool.
Well, today there's been, so cyanide is a good way of getting leaching silver, heap leaching silver and gold and stuff out of, and even copper out of low grade ore. But the problem is, so you have to build a big, you dig a great big huge hole, then you put a membrane in there, you pour a cyanide solution on there, it precipitates through that, and then the gold and silver or whatever sticks to the solution, and then you get the solution, the minerals out of the solution. The problem with that is cyanide is very toxic, and they've had huge environmental disasters where, if there's a breach in that, they've killed all the fish in creeks, and the government has spent, they spend like millions and millions of dollars rebuilding it. You can't do that anymore. There's no way, there's no place in America or in Canada or anywhere else where they're going to let you use cyanide to get to.
Like I said, this would have been around 73.
Yeah. Well, that was 50 years ago. I mean, but in this day and age, there's no, the environmental standards where the government and people are a lot more worried about the environment than they are about some gold miner, getting a little bit of silver or gold out of some old rock. I mean, the environment and the fish and the habitat is, those days are gone. You can't do that anymore.
This pile of sand, this what happened is the tailing pile that was up the valley got flooded out and got all washed down to one spot at the bottom, and it was assayed at millions of dollars worth of silver in there.
Yeah.
So it was worth them to set up a screw, a couple of front end loaders, dig the ponds out, because we had 3 ponds, and put in the equipment and ran it for a summer. I was there for a summer. I was making good money, but yeah, it was very dangerous. I mean, we got the screw running, right? Separating the heavies and the lights and all the big stuff. And every couple hours you go over there and reach into this big 55-gallon cardboard drum full of cyanide pellets, about that big. Grab about 3 of them with your hands, grab about 3 of them, throw them in the water, and went about my business.
There was a lot of mining companies that made a lot of money in the 70s and 80s doing that.
Right.
The only good thing about cyanide's really toxic. The only good thing about it is it doesn't stay in the environment that long. So
right, it dissipates. But in the meantime, the settling ponds have dead birds all around it. So
yeah. Well, there's a big gold mine at the Mascot gold mine where they had Homestake. It was like, this is a big modern day mine that ran right up into the 2000. But because of their process with the cyanide, they polluted the groundwater so bad. They've been pumping groundwater out of there for the last 20 years and putting it into settling ponds and using organic chemicals or organic process to eat the cyanide out of it and then releasing it back to the creek. They've been doing that for the last 20 years, and they'll be doing that for the foreseeable future. So, definitely, everyone's learned their lessons about these toxic chemicals in the environment. And the same with mercury. Back in the old days, back in the 1800s, they used mercury. And it drove miners crazy and stuff, and did a lot of damage. And there's still mercury in places. People don't handle mercury with their bare hands anymore. they still do in Mexico,
For
where
sure.
the
Well,
standards.
mercury is a natural occurring substance
Yeah.
too.
So
I
is
mean,
cyanide. So.
right. So is cyanide. You're right.
Yeah.
So
So a lot of these processes that were acceptable and that they used to extract metals and stuff, they're not used anymore, and for a good reason.
right.
Mhm.
No gold in Utah. Okay.
They always say that. We know they lie.
I know.
We were in Eureka. We did we explored a bunch of mines in Eureka. That was a pretty interesting area, real rich gold area in Eureka. So there was gold there. Maybe there's not now.
How much traveling do you guys have to do to make content? I mean, are you just surrounded by old mines, or are you guys traveling pretty far out now to find them?
Well, we enjoy, we're kind of retired now, so we enjoy doing this, and the YouTube, basically pays our bills. So we got the luxury or something. And the philosophy is that we'll spend whatever money YouTube give us to travel and have fun and explore mines. So we do this, not really to make a living, but it pays the bills. So like last year, I spent 5 months in America, and we traveled through Utah, down through Washington, and into Arizona, and down in Mexico. And then years before that, we were down in Mexico and, flew around there and rented vehicles and go to these coal mines and stuff. So it's not that we have to travel necessarily. I mean, there's lots of mines around here, but so we've got a pretty nice truck and a trailer and equipment and stuff to go do that. So we enjoy doing that. So
I think this kind of meshes in. Canadian gold mining must have asked us at the exact same time. Do you find most of your mines to explore through your own research of mine fills and mineral titles, or from hints from other miners in the industry?
Well, it's a variety of things. Probably our favorite thing is we got a lot of people that say, well, they want to come exploring with us, but the problem is that if they don't have the equipment and stuff, we do rope stuff, and that's not going to work. We don't take tourists for tours of mines. And then typically we don't go back into mines. Once we've documented the mines, we wouldn't normally go back into it. So we're the more interesting mines are more difficult technical mines. But we have a lot of so we meet a lot of people that do have good skills and stuff that say, hey, I live in somewhere close by or where we're at or going, and they say we know where there's some cool mines. Would you like to come with us? So that works the best for us because. If you're in an area you've never been before, it's a lot of work for you to try to find good mines to go into, because a lot of mines, especially in America, have been sealed off, or they're on private property, or you don't know if there's anything worthwhile going into there. So it makes it more difficult. Having said that, though, generally speaking, we know the areas where the major mines were, and the more famous mining areas. Places like in, around, say, Butte, Montana, or Eureka, or, different places in Arizona around Tombstone, or these different areas where there are historically a lot of mines. So if we're in that area, we're looking for large waste rock piles. So if there's substantial workings that are of interest to us, there'll be huge piles of waste rock that, when they're developing the mines, it's just, rock that you can identify easily from the surface. So that makes it easy. So, not so much research, it's just we kind of know the areas where there were major mines, and there's people that help us out with that, and also to a smaller extent where we've had mine orders say, well, we own this mine, we've never been to it, we'd like you to come check it out for us, or different things along those lines.
So you had mentioned earlier that spelunking really doesn't hit the same category that you're going into because you're looking for old mining equipment. But have you ever considered, so in Missouri, in that area, caves were used as cowboy hideouts, or indigenous people actually lived in these caves, and you can find artifacts and old equipment or old treasures there as well. Have you ever considered hunted down any old cowboy stories or anything like that?
Well, typically in America, well, especially where we've been in America, there's a lot of tourists go to these places. So, if any of these places are easily accessible, there's been, tens of thousands of people has already been through them, so you're not going to find anything.
Yeah.
So the only reason we're able to find things in most places in America that, except for, say, like if we go into Nevada or something, you go into the high country where there isn't a lot of people, but most places where there's a lot of people, those easily accessible places, you're not going to find anything of much historical significance. So that makes it difficult. So the big difference between mines and caves is mines were actually built by men to access minerals and getting into a mountain into these interesting formations, where caves are just a random formation. So and we're probably more interested in the artifacts and the way the mines were set up than caves is just kind of a hole in the ground that was maybe some cool looking rock in it. So
yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's fair. And you're right, a lot of people have already gotten up in there and checked things out.
With mines, if you're going down shafts and holes where you're hundreds of feet straight down an old rotten shaft, there's very few people that have any desire or the skills to go into it. So so that's where we start seeing the interesting stuff. Down into those levels, hundreds of feet below. We've been as far as 1,500 feet below ground on some of these shafts. So and then people just don't get into those places.
I was telling you earlier that I had been down in a mine shaft, went down about 100 feet.
Well, it probably wasn't a shaft unless it was an incline shaft, because unless you went down on rope shafts, or a shaft is typically straight up and down. So
this was straight up and down. We went down a ladder.
Oh yeah.
And the first station was at about 100 feet, and there was more going down.
Yeah.
Okay. So we stopped at that 100-foot mark and went off. But the thing that amazed me the most about being in there was going through this small opening, right? And going in there and finally getting your eyes used to it, getting the lights and everything so you can see, and realize that they had dug out this huge, monstrous cavern, that was like can fit, I don't know, a lot of stuff in it, probably 50, 60 feet high, just, a football field size, and just all dug out. And the guys that took us down there were hard rock miners. And they said, yeah, they found a vein, and they were mining for tungsten. They found a vein and chased it that way, and that's what it opened up to. And they brought all that material out and up, and that's what they were mining. So
that's called a stope, eh? So what the way most deposits are formed is they usually like lime. The most common way of deposits are formed because something called a limestone deposit. So what happens in the bottom of an ocean floor? They'd have an event that kills off all the shellfish. So it goes down to the bottom and forms a layer of dead crabs and shellfish, lobsters, or whatever, and it makes limestone. Over time, layers with the pressure and stuff, it makes limestone. And the interesting thing about limestone is it's sensitive to pH. So if you get acidic water, it'll eat that limestone right out. So underneath the Earth's crust, you end up with big hollow sections. So what happens is you get an event where there's a volcano or something like that pushes up usually heated fluids. So deep below the Earth's crust, if you have you get the minerals and stuff that are in there, and you get superheated fluids, and then they push up through the Earth's crust through these cracks, and especially through limestone because it can flow through that. So it's like your shower head. When you see your shower head, you see the the white stuff in that, which is calcite and stuff. So you get these superheated fluids that go up and through these cracks in the earth, and over time it deposits these formations. So the limestone is sometimes just small little cracks, and other times it opens up into huge, caverns and stuff like that. So typically over time, that's how veins and minerals are formed up and through the thing. So the miner at the surface, he might see a little bit of sulfides or some galena or something like that, and they'll chase this little vein down through there, and all of a sudden it could open up into a huge deposit. Lots of times, sometimes it'll just pinch out to nothing, and then sometimes it'll open up. So that's typically how mines are developed. So miners know there's a big deposit. They find this big deposit. Then they typically, in mountainous areas, they just sink a shaft underneath, an adit underneath all that, and then use gravity to bring all this stuff down from this big stope into ore chutes, and then bring it out on a train. And that's typically how mines, hard rock mines, are mined.
Right, well, this was in Nevada on a desert floor, in between ranges. Like I said, they were mining for tungsten. I believe the guy said that they were actually mining in the 30s when this particular mine was operating. So that's what they were looking for. That's what they were digging out.
See, in flat areas, it makes it more complicated, because then they're having to sink shafts down to go straight down, and you can't get underneath the deposit. So when you're sinking a shaft, you're going straight down. You imagine you're having to drill down and explode the rock out of there, and then remove that rock, all the waste rock up that shaft. It's very time consuming and pretty complicated to mine by sinking shafts, but it's worth it if you have good materials in there. But
right, obviously it was worth it. Like I said, I stopped at the first station, which is with 100-foot mark, and it went down even further. I don't know how far it went down, because I was good at 100 feet. That's a lot of climbing down a wooden ladder, let me tell you.
Yeah, you have to be really careful with these wooden ladders, because, especially in Canada, most of them are all rotted. They're not really usable. But even like in the drier areas in Nevada or in Arizona, lots of times they may appear to be sound, but you step on a ladder and you don't know what it's nailed to. You could just fall, hundreds of feet down to your death. So when we go down ladders, we go down on ropes. So if the ladder were to fail, then you're still secured, right? So that's one big hazard with a mine. I mean, you don't, just because a ladder looks good, you don't really know. I mean, once you've been down and up, you might look good. But
I was the third man down and probably the smallest, so I was good.
Yeah, the best thing you do is get a real fat guy like me to go first, and if he don't fall, then it's probably good for your smaller. Right? Sharon uses that method a lot.
Yeah, she's smart. But yeah, these like I said, these guys were experienced miners, and they said, "You want to go down?" We were good. They were getting ready to go down, and I said, "Yeah, I'll go down there." Hell yeah, I'll try it. Yeah, I'm always up for trying something, right? And remember, back then I was only in my early 20s, so I was young and dumb and ready to do anything. And ladders or ropes, what are those?
Yeah. Well, there's two kinds of shafts. Some are vertical shafts going straight down, but lots of times they'll also have a vertical shaft. So it'll be at a really steep angle, and they'll just have the wing to the top and a couple rails, and then the carts are going down and back up, and so they're not as dangerous because you're not straight up and down, and they're a little easier to get down into. So
yeah, they were straight up and down.
Yeah, how they're mining, how they're exploring.
but I would have done it. No problem. I did it. No problem.
Yeah,
I was happy, and it was cool. It was really fun. I learned a lot of stuff down there, but it didn't get me into going exploring anymore. I got my. It's like when you see Bigfoot once, you need to go hunt for him, right? So, any more questions we got, guys?
Yeah, Jess, can you read the one from Busted Knuckles? Because I'm scared I'm going to pronounce that wrong.
Amalgamation?
Yeah.
Amalgamated gold. He's talking about gold that's amalgamated with mercury. He finds tons of it there. He's in Australia. He says, I believe it's only the fumes that are deadly, maybe the reason why I'm crazy. I think handling it absorbs into your skin too, even when it's in liquid form.
Someone brought, I think it was Run for the Hills. He brought up using a retorter, which is about the safest way nowadays, but they can even be dangerous if water siphons up through the exit.
Yeah, well, I know a fair bit about that. When we were in Mexico, they used mercury to get gold out of ore, and it was really fascinating to see that. What they do, they still mine the old way, the same way they did for hundreds of years. They use burrows to bring the ore down off the mountain, and they have something called an arastus, I guess. And it's like you'd ever see in the old West, they have like a big tub, and they have a mule that goes around, and it's got a couple big rocks there, and it's a scoop button there, and then it these two rocks in this tub, and it's grinding this ore. So they take the ore and they take a hammer, smash it as fine as it can. They stick it in there, and then it just goes around and it grinds this ore up into a real fine paste. And it's the same as a ball mill would do in modern days. Then they put mercury in there. So as it goes around, the mercury is mixed up with this, not much mercury, just a couple ounces of mercury. But it's going around there. And what mercury does is it sticks to gold. So the gold is really fine, microscopic gold, and it just grinds it up in there. And they only do, small crew only do about 4 or 5 guys. They do maybe a ton of ore a week, not very much. And it would grind it all up. So then they, when it's all done, it's kind of ground up, they just kind of pan it out of there. And at the very bottom, the mercury is quite heavy and the gold's sticking to it. So they pan it out. So you just get a kind of a button of mercury, the silver mercury. Right. So then what you do is they take a chamois and they squeeze it out. And then they end up reclaiming the mercury through a retort and stuff like that. So the mercury sticks to it, but it's very toxic. I mean, these guys are handling this mercury with their bare hands. They're not, they don't know the mercury will go right through your skin, and it'll cause mental problems. Lots of miners gone crazy on that, but that's the process. It uses mercury to amalgamate the gold, and it sticks to the gold. And they use a chamois. They squeeze it out through there, and then the mercury goes through the chamois if they squeeze it. And then the gold ends up in a little button in there, the little silver in it, and it's these guys end up making like $10 a day. But it's a very poor area in Mexico, way back in the country. Great bunch of guys. I mean, you bring some chips and some pop, and they're so happy they don't get that kind of stuff. And they showed us the whole thing. It's like going back, hundreds of years, and that's the way they, the old school way that they mine these guys, these little gold mines. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the term Mad Hatter comes from the fact that the guys that used to make top hats, they would use mercury in that process and turn them mad hatters because of the mercury they used. Mercury was not a good. They did the same thing to miners too. Well, was there a term for that, Ed?
What?
For a miner that went crazy on mercury?
I don't know. I know the term from the old hat makers from Mad Hatter.
Right. I thought there was a term for miners too.
Oh, maybe. We'll have to ask Mike Pun. I'm sure he has a joke about it somewhere. But
if not, he'll make one up.
I know there's old stories about don't eat the potato because old sourdoughs would retort their amalgam in a potato, and they'd get the button out of it because the potato itself absorbs the mercury.
Yeah, I've heard something like that. I've heard something like that too. I remember hearing that.
I don't know. So I'll have to check on that.
Yeah, our friend Outdoorsy Gal O, she has a question.
Mad as a miner, random guy says.
Mad as a miner?
Maybe.
Okay. She says, have you been in silver mines, and what chemical dangers lurk in them?
It's kind of interesting, people, they talk about a big thing with mining pollution is something called acid leaching. And then people think it's because they use some kind of chemical to mine, but it's not. What it is when you blast rock and stuff, it's like iron, it's like rust. As soon as you break a piece of steel, then the oxygen and the air can get in and it starts to rust. And that's what happens with acid leaching. The sulfides and stuff, they start to break down, and they turn the sulfur into, it's almost like battery acid, which is pretty corrosive, and then it leaches the heavy metals and stuff out of there. So that's what causes the pollution and stuff that mines, they have big problems with acid leaching. but it's nothing to do with any acid that's brought into the mine. It's just a process of actually blasting the rock and going in there and mining out of there. So you don't see, so there's not really any danger with the chemicals as far as the silver and stuff goes in there. It's the acid leaching that's that's causing the problems with the pollution and stuff. So
the chemical would be the acid leach. The sulfides leaching out.
What it actually does is it doesn't actually kill the fish, it kills the organisms that the fish feed on, and it also puts heavy metals into the streams and stuff. So that's that's another reason why these little mom and pop operations and the government, the regulations or something is something they didn't know or really care anything about. Back in the old days when they mined, the prospectors used to go through the bush and just light forest fires because it was easier to prospect when all the wood was gone.
Right.
They don't do that anymore. So they didn't care about dumping tailings into creeks. If the fish died, they get fish from another creek or whatever. And so just the standards and the knowledge and the whole thing just changed. So yeah.
And you know what's cool about that change is that change was brought on by the actual miners themselves. They realized that what they were doing wasn't the right thing, especially like here in the States anyways. A lot of our mining laws were produced by the miners who saw what they were doing weren't good for the planet.
There's actually an interesting story about that. So back in when they first invented air compressors and drills and stuff, they didn't have water, so that an air drill now has water that goes through the middle of the drill, and then the water comes out and it lubricates the bit and it cuts the dust down. They didn't realize that back in the old days, a long time ago, the dust was causing a huge amount of something called black lung, because there's lots of silica and stuff in the ore. And young guys that started working in mines when they're 18 or 17 or 18, by the time they're in their 20s, they couldn't breathe anymore and suffered a horrible death because of the silica. And they didn't realize breathing all this dust and silica was causing that problem. The mine owners, they weren't all that concerned about it. They would just hire more miners. I mean, they were paying good money. They didn't give a shit. But then they found out by using water in the drills with the new drills that come out. They called them the widowmakers back then because it killed people. The drill bits lasted way longer because it cooled the drill bits and it lubricated the bits, and then then they switched over to that. But the miners' union back in the day, they were instrumental in a lot of this health and safety stuff. The mine owners didn't give a shit. I mean, they were big companies, the stock market and stuff, and they only cared about making money. Right. Yeah, the unions back in the old days, and a lot of people don't like unions for different reasons now, but they really did help the miners as far as the safety and the standards really evolved because of the miners' union in a lot of cases.
And my wife just told me that her grandfather died from black lung. He was a coal miner in Virginia, I believe it was. So that was a real thing.
That's the other thing that I probably should talk about is when we go into hard rock mines, we don't go into coal mines at all. Coal mines are far more dangerous because coal is an organic substance. So when it's exposed to oxygen, it's basically rotting. So that takes up a lot of the oxygen. So you have toxic gases, poisonous gases. You have something called black damp, and coal is very unstable. Coal mines are really nasty compared to hard rock mines. So the precautions that we take in the mines aren't appropriate for coal mines. So we don't want people to watch our videos and say, well, we got some cool coal mines we want to check out there. It's a whole different kettle of fish. And most of the people who got killed in mines were in coal mines.
I was going to ask you about some of the precautions you take. You take oxygen meters and things like that with you in there?
Well, the very first most important thing about going to a mine is you need to make sure you got lots of light. I mean, if you go explore a mine with your cell phone for a light that dies, when you're walking along and there's a winds or something, you couldn't imagine really how black it is in a mine. There's no light.
I know. Oh man.
Well, the first thing is if you ever go into a mine, you should have a good light, a backup light, and a backup for your backup. At least three lights each. The second thing is obviously oxygen. You have to make sure that because in mines, if the airflow is not good, You can have timbers and stuff that are taking up the oxygen. And the more common thing that could happen is there could have been a fire or something that used the oxygen. There could have been a fire in a mine and carbon dioxide, and then different things. So definitely, we have oxygen monitor, and actually we have a 4-gas monitor that tests for methane, hydrogen sulfide, oxygen, and SO2 also. So you need to monitor the air and the mine and have lots of light. Those are important. And the other thing is just like common sense. We run into stuff. We tell people don't touch anything, because if you go into a mine and there's some rock that's unstable, it's probably fine if you're just walking underneath it. But if there's a timber or rock and you go to touch it, you just touching it could set off a collapse or kill you very easily. So you're continually having to assess the conditions in the mine and decide what's safe and what's not, and plus those obvious things that I mentioned.
You guys had instances where you've been well into a mine and had some warnings go off and you've had to get on out of there, no oxygen or anything like that? And, has it ever made you nervous or scared?
Yeah, we have had that happen where you're going along and all of a sudden the oxygen monitor goes off and the oxygen is dropping down below. Normal atmospheric oxygen is 21%. The monitor goes up about 19.5%, which isn't itself alarming, but it is alarming that it's going down. It's not really common, but it happens. So when that happens, the reason is you don't really know why it's going down. It could be like rotting timbers, or it could be H2S causing hydrogen sulfide gas or different things. So when that happens, we just turn around and we leave. So
Quickly.
I'm sure those devices are a lot better than walking in with the canary, eh?
Yeah. In the old days with the coal mines and stuff like that, if they had methane, actually something kind of interesting, if there's oxygen levels low and it's not, there's no poisonous gas or no flammable gas there, if you take a cigarette lighter, like a cigarette lighter usually flames about this high, the flame will actually go about this high. The reason being is because the fuel has to go a lot further before it gets enough oxygen to burn. So you'll notice the flame going a lot higher. So back in the old days when they just had the old carbide lamps, the miners knew if that lamp started doing weird stuff that the oxygen level was going down. So what happened was when the carbide lamps aren't very bright, they're only like about 3 times as bright as a candle. When they started getting the better electric lamps, the miners didn't have that, to kind of tell them that, there's problems with the oxygen or air quality. So they, so the canary was the substitute for it. The reason is the canary, we can survive okay at about 10% oxygen. A canary can't. They got very small lungs, and if the oxygen's just a little bit low, they just pass out. So they just watch that canary, and if it's passed out, they know the oxygen's dropped down a little. So obviously, there's more sophisticated ways of sampling oxygen in the canary these days. But
now, how many countries total now have you been exploring mines in?
Only Mexico, Canada, and America.
Oh, okay. So maybe one day you'll get to Europe and hit France and.
Well, it's possible, but it's pretty expensive. I mean, for us, to load up our side by side and our travel trailer and go to the States or something like that, we could spend go to Walmart and get our groceries, and the language, and it makes it fairly easy. And people say, well, come to Australia, there's all kinds of cool mines. It's a couple $1,000 to fly there, and if you have to rent a vehicle and stay in hotels, and it gets fairly expensive. And in Mexico especially, it's if you don't speak the language, to try to get around and communicate, all these things make it more complicated. So there's thousands of mines close to where we live. There's not really any reason to go, to other continents to explore mines. Other people should start YouTube channels and explore their mines there.
You got plenty here, right?
Yeah. I'll be dead way before I run out of mines. So
I think random dude, the random guy posted.
Random guy.
He posted posted earlier. There's like 1,300 or something. Let me see if I can find it. There was a lot of mines. You got plenty, you said.
Oh yeah, tons.
Yeah, and there's probably I imagine there's more in America than there is here. So there's lots of mines around. There's no problem with that.
Yeah, he said there was a pretty big number that he posted on there that he commented on. I don't remember what it was.
I'm sure, like America, mining made America. I'm sure, besides the fur trade and Hudson Bay Company, mining made Canada too, huh?
Well, it didn't really get started really well until the 1800s. The big thing that happened, there was quite a few revolutions. People asked us, what's the oldest mine you ever into? But in Mexico, about 500 years ago, the Spanish came and they conquered the Mexicans, and they made them slaves and made them work in the silver mines, and the silver went back to Spain and stuff like that. But back then they just had hand steel, and they didn't use some black powder, and it wasn't very sophisticated. So there's not much to really see there. The big revolution happened in mining around the late 1800s, when they started having compressed air, and invented dynamite, when Nobel invented dynamite, and all of a sudden they can make some pretty big mines that fairly cheaply, and for the mining, what the big boom in mining really was in America and everywhere else, where they started getting electricity around the turn of the century, where everyone started getting electricity and telephones and stuff like that. And so the Industrial Revolution made a big demand for metals like copper, and also iron and stuff like that. So
everything.
Yeah, more of that time, right?
Yeah. Random guy says there's 1,887 mines in British Columbia alone.
Yeah. Hi, Ron. I know who he is. Yeah, Ron. He enjoys
random guy.
He enjoys researching stuff on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I think he's wrong. I'm pretty sure it was 1,883, not 1,887.
I think I'm going to go with Ron.
Now, have you explored any mines in like Alberta or Quebec or?
Well, there's not a lot in Alberta. Most of the mines are in mountainous areas for the reasons that I told you, how mineral deposits are.
Right.
So in Alberta, well, the western part of Alberta is in the Rockies, so there are some mines there, but not in the plains. You don't see a lot of mines there. There is in Quebec and Ontario, but the problem is in a lot of those areas where it's old rock and it's flatter. Most of those mines are flooded. If you have a shaft and you have to drill down through solid rock, all the snow and everything and the rainwater is going to go into that hole and flood that hole. So the only way they were able to mine is because they had pumps and they kept pumping the water out. So obviously when they quit mining, the hole fills up full of water. So, when you have mountainous areas, generally what they do is they'll drill in there with a drift, and they'll just have it going slightly uphill to drain the water out. So we're able to go into those mines, and they're not flooded.
How many mines have you had to kayak in? That was one of my favorite videos of yours, is when you guys were kayaking in that mine.
Yeah, that was kind of a bit of a novelty. So not a lot. I think we were in just that one. I guess we kayaked into two different ones. Yeah, there's lots of. I kind of have a strict rule. Well, not really a strict rule, but my rule is, so long as my package keeps dry, I'm fine, right? There's actually a good reason for that, because usually the water in mines is around freezing, so it's quite cold. So if you're just wet and your legs are wet, it's not really a big deal. But once it starts getting up into your midsection, hypothermia, it's really, you kind of get chilled to your core pretty quick. So we try not to wade any. If it's below your waist, it's usually not too much of a problem. Just to go in and get cold and wet, and then go on your way. But so when he starts getting deeper in that, we like to try to do either trying to turn around or get kayak or do something else.
You guys ever wear like wetsuits?
We do, but the problem is, I got hip waders and stuff like that, but all this stuff is kind of heavy. So if you're having to climb a long ways to up in the mine and a long ways underground, like even just with the ropes and all that kind of stuff, is all this other gear, it weighs quite a bit, and you don't want to just be packing all this stuff just in case you might get wet feet, right? So generally speaking, we just go out with rubber boots, and we're lucky it doesn't get much deeper than that. We're kind of there, yeah.
You guys ever camp out in the mines?
Ever what?
Camp out in the mines, stay overnight.
No, mines are a nasty place. I mean, it's cold and there's rats running around there. It's not really a place where you'll want to, if we're camped out in the mine, it's probably not going to be planned. It's part of emergency that we're kind of trying to avoid.
No.
It's different if you're in Arizona or in California or something. It's warm in those mines. It's dry, and you got less rats there. Yeah, maybe there, not usually up here where it's cold and wet.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to forgive me. I always assumed, just like caves, the deeper you went, the warmer it got. And I guess that is not the case.
No, it isn't the case. Generally in a mine, the temperature in a mine will be the average temperature outside of the mine. So in places in Canada, further north, if you're getting colder temperatures where it's in the minus 20 or 30s in the wintertime, and in the summertime it might be, we're in Celsius, so you won't relate to that, but it kind of averages out. Usually the mine, inside, quite deep inside a mine, it'll be the kind of the average temperature of the outside. The exception is if you get into really deep mines where you're in South Africa or in back east or something, if you're at 5,000 or 6,000 feet underground, then obviously there's going to be thermal, there's thermal forces at work, but most mines aren't that deep. So generally speaking, it's kind of the average temperature. So if you get into California or Arizona or something, it doesn't get below freezing that much at lower altitudes, and it's very hot. It's over 100 degrees most of the good part of the summer. You're going to have pretty warm mines. So in America, the only difference is if you're in Nevada and places like that where you're in high altitude, some in Colorado, you're higher up, you're going to get that. So some of the mines in Canada where we're at, because of the elevation, some of them are there's actually some of them there's ice year round or a part of the year that generally they're not much around freezing. There are lots of mines are around freezing.
Wow.
I got a question. What's the main thing you need to remember to keep from getting lost in a mine? Because I watch you go into these mines, and I see you going up through this tunnel or going through that tunnel, and I'm going, how do you keep from getting lost? I notice that some of them are marked.
Yeah. So the very simplest rule that we use is something called the right hand rule.
Right.
So if you imagine so we got, say your hand is like a branch, right? So you're going up, well, you can't really see, but you're going up a tunnel and you get to a branch right here. So you go to the right and you go to the very end, then you come back out and then you get to another branch and you go to the right. And then eventually it'll be like a tree, the trunk of a tree. You'll be able to go to every portion of that mine and come back out, not have to remember which branch you went into. So and people ask it, well, when you're coming out, you go to the left? No, you go to the right all the time. Having said that, though, that doesn't always work. That works in fairly simple. We were in a mine that was a huge mine, and we spent about 7 or 8 hours on just one level. And we weren't able to go to each branch. So we're having to try to find our way back out. We went back into it, and I thought, well, we know this mine pretty good. And we ended up lost for 3 hours. It doesn't usually happen, but it did happen. So, but generally speaking, the right-hand rule helps us to do that. If you get into larger mines that are way larger, you're not going to be able to explore every branch on that level. So with the one that we went into Phoenix, we just ended up taking some spray paint, and every time you go to the end of because generally you go to an adit and it just goes down and it ends, and you come back out. Then you just put an X in there, and just telling you it doesn't go anywhere, and you've been through that. So that can help you. But generally speaking, the right-hand rule is what we use for navigation.
In other words, when you go in there, every turn you take will be a right one. So when you get to the end, you come back out.
Then you go to the right.
You go to the right, which would be the next.
Yeah. You could do it. You could use right or left, but one or the other. So yeah.
Okay, what about following tracks if there's tracks?
Well, that'll tell you. Well, it doesn't necessarily tell you anything. The tracks, sometimes tracks are removed. They remove different things. The other thing is, if you're coming out of a mine, you're going to be joining. The tracks are coming together, right? So you're joining. It's like being out the countryside, going to a big city. You come through and you're joining other roads, and they're getting bigger and bigger as you go out. Generally speaking, right? So.
Right.
When you guys had that moment where you got lost for 3 hours, Outdoorsy Gal asked this as well. You guys ever have a sense of panic? What happened with that?
Panic kills.
Yeah.
Well, we knew we were on the same level that we went into the mine with, so we had to drop it on ropes a couple hundred feet. We were on the same level, so we were at the same level. So it's just generally you start seeing the same places over and over again. You go somewhere and say, "Oh no, it's this way up." Oh man, we just seen that ore cart. We just saw that formation. So you're kind of more getting frustrated because you're just going around in circles. So you think, well, you need to have more strategic. You go along. I think it's this way. I think it's that way. So you really can't trust your instincts. You need to have a more systematic way of doing it rather than just kind of trusting your instincts. So it's more just kind of frustrating. It wasn't really. We had lots of clothing. We had lots of lights. There was no big panic. We were going to find our way out, but just wasting a lot of time going around in circles. So, and that's really the only time that ever really happened. So, but yeah, it's because the first time we went in there, we stuck to the right-hand rule, and we thought, oh no, I know where we're going. We're just going to go bam, 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 and we just ended up in a section we hadn't been before, and just ended up going around in circles.
So you started off with your rule, and then just kind of left it off to the side, huh?
Well, we actually did bring some paint in there, but then we tested the paint out the day before, and then it got clogged, so it didn't work. And it was a good lesson. I mean, that's basically the answer to that. Yeah.
Well, here's something we usually ask. I don't remember Jesse or Rose touching base on it. What was the scariest episode you ever had in a mine?
Well, Sharon and I were in a mine called up by Weimar called the the Dundee, I guess, and it was a miserable mine. I like it. It's real steep down. There was lots of loose stuff. There was pouring water there, and we were a long ways down on ropes. And we were coming back up, and we just had a tough time coming out of there because the ropes kept getting stuck on stuff as we were demobbing and going back up, and then had to go back up and down. And it was just a nasty mine. And then a big rock about this big came down from my rope, and it hit me on the shoulder and left a huge bruise there. Mm. By the time I was up, I was just, Sharon said, we should never went down there. It's just too unstable. There's too much loose rock. And I said, I'm sorry, I won't bring it down anymore like that. And by the time I got up, I was just physically beat. I actually could barely make it out of the top. I was just worn out and beat up. So that's the nastiest one, I guess, that we'd been down.
We covered that one. Frank, if someone donates an item, this is from Canadian Gold Mining. Frank, if someone donates an item for the museum, are they mentioned in the write-up description?
I didn't hear that. Maybe Sharon did. But
if somebody donates a item for your museum, are they in the? I didn't hear the rest. Are they in the?
Are they in the write-up in the description?
Oh, in the write-up in the description.
Yeah, donated by Joe Blow.
Do they get a credit? Like Joe Schmo from Alamo donated.
Well, I mean, there's no reason why we can't give them a shout out. Yeah, sure. Why not, eh?
There you go, Canadian Gold Mining.
Most people haven't really worried about that, but yeah, we're certainly negotiable. We can do that. There was a guy that gave us a real cool black light one time, and I kind of forgot what his name was, and I was always gonna. But yeah, people have been really kind of generous to us. Whether we do these live chats every once in a while, and people always kind of throw us a few dollars or something, and to buy some beer or whatever. And actually, I've had people send me some checks and stuff for different things for the museum and a few things, and people have been pretty generous to us, and we really always kind of really appreciate that. But probably the best thing that they can do that's really helps is if they watch our videos. I mean, we the YouTube revenues, that's where we get most of our stuff from, and it so we just people share the videos and watch the videos, and on Exploring the Band of Minds, that kind of helps us out the most. So
yeah, Sharon, you guys share our YouTube, our live too. Don't forget to share, like, join, go over to Exploring Abandoned Minds. That's right. That's the name of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go over there and subscribe to him and watch his videos. They've got some cool videos. I've been getting into them.
Another way that people kind of support us is, so we got we sell like T-shirts and hats and stuff like that. So we got a website's called Exploring the Band of Minds, or it's called
EAMmerch.com. We'll get you there.
Yeah, so we get some money from T-shirts and stuff. Well, we kind of like it because then it's like free advertising too, right? Because people wearing a T-shirt and say, "What the hell's that?" And so it kind of helps out that way too, right? So it kind of gets.
Okay.
Absolutely.
NorCal Prospecting brings up a question. I guess our friend Sean from Australia, Busted Knuckles, asked earlier. We brought up Scary. Would that mine also be the creepiest mine you've been into also?
Which one?
Was the scariest mine also the creepiest mine? Or do you have creepy?
You know what? I don't really get creeped out. I don't get creeped out by mines, but with one exception. If you're underground too long, I find, because it's draining on you both physically and mentally, because you're always kind of assessing these different dangers. You're looking at rotten floors. You're looking at rock timbers, the gas monitor. Maybe you're wet and you're uncomfortable. So if you're underground for a long time, you get sort of a little creeped out. You just need to, you just want to reach the surface. And so Sharon, she calls it the mine ghoulies. She says she starts seeing the mine ghoulies, but it's just because you're working hard mentally and you want to leave. That's all.
You know what? When I asked you earlier about Tommy knockers and stuff like that, I mean, you were no. But I'm looking at Sharon over there, and she goes, "Oh yes, I saw it. Yes, yeah." She had this big smile, like,
Maybe those are ghoulies.
Yeah. Ghoulies. That's so she knows what we're talking about.
I should have let her answer the question, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a question specifically for Sharon, which is, were you ever scared?
All the time, yeah.
That's all the time.
Every mine.
You can answer that question.
So do you have a little more belief in the paranormal, the supernatural, the Tommyknockers? Do you think that maybe there is something down there?
No, not really that. It's just, it's definitely out of my comfort zone down there. And after I always say a little before we go in, okay, let's come out safe. And, and then once you're down there for 4, 5, 6 hours, I say the mine ghoulies are getting me.
I don't know. You don't seem like you're very fearful down there. The way you climb up and down them ladders and up them through there.
I like climbing. I like the rope work, but Getting better at crawling through skinny places, but it's very unnerving down there. It's not a easy place to be.
It's enclosed.
Yeah, some people, I mean, you know, like Jess said, he tried it. He's not that interested in it. You know, some people won't even try it. They won't even give it a shot because they don't like those enclosed spaces. So
Yeah, I thought I was kind of claustrophobic, but getting better.
it's easier. I think I'd have a harder time with being wet, the water, and not knowing what's in the water down there. That would creep me out.
Oh yeah, like you step and you never know, is it going to be up
Right.
your waist or your knee or what's going to happen? Yeah.
That would.
The same mine that we were lost in there. We were going through some water, and I was going first, and we couldn't see the bottom, and then I kind of along the edge, and I went kind of slow, and we went in and checked out a bunch of stuff. And we come back out, and I thought, it was good, and I just kind of marched through the middle. Then I fell down, and I was up like here in freezing cold water, and I fell down in the thing, and but that, you know, it was kind of a stupid mistake, you know, and I got a little lazy and stuff. I didn't think it was going to go down there, but yeah, you never know. You know, the other thing is, you know, you asked about, we have lots of people that want to come with us all the time. And this has happened quite a few times. And people, especially guys, you know, they're all, oh no, you know, I'm good, and this, now they want to do that. And we've seen them turn to butter. I mean, you know, they get creeped out, and they're like little girls. And, you know, Sharon, she's pretty tough. I mean, there's, you know, she has her moments, but we've seen, like, there's not many guys can keep up to her. And, they all talk big, you know, when they go in there. But most people, they kind of overestimate their abilities that we've found that we've run in with this. So, yeah. So we got to be careful. You know, people always want to come with us, but usually it's not a good idea.
Have you guys like, you know, been going through and you've been in there long enough and you know, you're getting the heebie-jeebies, like, have you ever thought that you stumbled across a dead body or a skeleton, or has that ever happened to you guys?
We've seen lots of bones and skeletons, but not of people, of animals, deer, mine cats, snakes and rats and all. Generally speaking, miners are, you know, there's been accidents in mines where people have died and stuff, but you know, people are respectful, and even through the ages that if a miner died, they, you know, take the body out and bury it. They don't just leave them there, you know, say, oh, well, he died, we'll get another miner. You know, the only time that you would probably, I would think, likely ever to find a body in a mine is if somebody killed somebody and threw them in the mine to dispose of the body. But it's actually not a very smart thing to do, because if you throw somebody in the shaft, that you'll see the buzzards and stuff flying around, and they'll know something was in there. So it happened in Mexico. They found a mine that had 22 people the cartel threw in there, but you know, that makes a heck of a stink, and the buzzards start flying around there. So it's not a good way of disposing of bodies.
Well, I guess it's good that you've never run across old Jeff Williams' buddy's uncle or something down there, huh?
Yeah, no, we haven't seen Slim down in a mine there. No.
Let me see. Our friend Ron, your buddy, was asking if Sharon would talk more, but I guess she got a good spill in there about her being scared. Another question by Canadian Gold Mining. Do spot devices work underground? Will you be located by this safety method underground?
No, nothing will work underground. We have radios. Spot tracker will not work underground. No, it needs a clear view of the sky. So we have radios that we use that we bought more recently. They're fairly powerful, but they're fairly limited. And they would only, you know, in the line of sight and maybe around a few turns, they, you know, like a regular handheld radio that might be good for 5 miles on the surface would be, you know, if there's solid rock to go around a corner or something, it wouldn't be good for a couple 100 yards.
Well, mining says the spot barely works under tree cover. So
Right.
Yeah,
Same,
it won't.
like old GPSs, you know, they in the on the floor of the forests of Western Washington, it'd be better to use a map and a compass than a GPS back in the day.
Yeah, you need a clear view of the sky to get GPS satellites for sure. You know, one thing that does work well underground is an iPhone, and you know, for the compass on an iPhone, and the reason is because it's got something called an accelerometer. So your iPhone, most people don't know this, it gets GPS position, it's navigates using GPS, but if it loses that signal, it's got pretty sophisticated sensors in it. So if you turn it, it can calculate how far it's been turned, and it recalculates that position. So you can actually use an iPhone underground to give you a bearings of which way is north. Sometimes you can use a compass, and sometimes you can't. It depends on whether there's ore that's magnet or or ferrous metal or not. If there's ore and stuff in there to throw it off, but an iPhone does work actually fairly well underground.
Huh.
Oh,
Interesting.
I got one, but I'm not going down there.
Oh, come on, Jesse. I can't ever
No,
get you into
no.
mine.
I've been down there once.
No.
I've seen Bigfoot. I've been down in the mine shaft. What else have I done? Yeah, I've flown a helicopter, so I'm good.
Well, one thing that always kind of amazes us is, you know, is how well the miners and stuff are able to do the mapping, the logging underground. You know, we were in a mine in Sandon where they had two separate mines inside the middle of a mountain, and they wanted to hook an ore pass from one level to the other, and they're able to use triangulation on the outside, you know, through a bunch of mountains and stuff, and figure it out. And you know, they can have two tunnels coming and come within a couple feet of each other, pretty close. So it's amazing the technology that they have, you know, to find their way around to do that kind of stuff.
In the dark.
Yeah, they have lights, but yeah.
Yeah, but still, I mean, turn them off, and you're in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
very
see.
dark, very dark.
No, I mean when they're blasting the tunnels, and and the other thing is all those mines, they know where the boundaries of the claim are, right? So you can imagine, you know, for me, I mean, you know, your claim's a certain size or whatever, and you're underground. Well, how the hell do you know where you are underground? You don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know which way is which, but they you know, they use mathematics and whatever and figure out exactly where they are and map it all out, so they know exactly where they are underground, or roughly, anyways.
Yeah, he is digging it. Pretty neat guy to listen to. Talking about you.
Have to watch rerun of Frank and Sharon. A neat guy to listen to. Yep, sure thing. Thanks for the super chat. Digging it.
Have you ever been to Alaska and gone through well, no, you're not into regular natural caves, so no, never mind. Scratch that question.
Yeah, we were going to go to Alaska this year, or we were up in by Hyder. There's a whole bunch of mines in the Stewart Hyder area, so that's the southern part of Alaska.
Yeah.
With the COVID, they closed the border down, so nobody was allowed to go. Yeah.
I thought your episodes, all the episodes of the Klondike were really cool.
Yeah, we really enjoyed that. It was something different that we'd never. So a friend of ours that we did a bunch of exploring down here with, he works for one of the larger placer mining operations there, and so he invited us up there. So we were able to go through their gold room and see all the stuff. They didn't really want to be named on the show or anything, but you know, they were good to us, and we learned a lot about the placer mining, and something that we hadn't really gotten into.
That's cool. Well, it's going on 10 o'clock, 2 hours. Time flies, really.
It is.
Time flies when you're having fun and have great guests like you and Sharon. Sharon, you really talk too much. You need to be more quiet and let Frank talk next time you're on.
Really?
No.
It's invited separately so they each get a chance to speak.
It's getting closer to supper time. We should throw some chicken on the barbecue or something.
Oh, there you go. Huh.
Yeah, we're on the East Coast, like you know, though. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening, Frank, Sharon. It was an awesome privilege to have you two on.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, we enjoyed chatting with you too. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been enjoying your videos too. You know, I mean, like I said, I've been subscribed for a while because I caught you a long time ago. And I said, oh, this is cool. And then, you know, squirrel.
I'm
So,
definitely gonna have to comment more often, though. I'm
yeah, same
sorry I
here.
don't comment a
No
lot.
problem. Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate your support. So, all right, guys. Well, have a good night then, and take care.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
I appreciate it, and I know Jesse needs to go pick up his granddaughter in about 9 minutes.
Yeah.
All of you out there, if it wasn't for you out there who takes this time to watch people like us, it's greatly appreciated. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be doing what we do here, right, guys?
That's right.
Well,
Anything new on Flash Bash?
it's sold out.
Okay.
I
Nothing
have
new
a
then,
couple on the waiting list if anyone drops out. I
Okay.
do want to thank our newest member, Gold Prospecting and Raven, our friend from Gold Adventures with Raven and Smack a Rock. I'll be nice, Smack. And I want to thank our super chatters, Diggin' It, Gorilla Grower, and Vendetta Prospecting. Thank you all very much. You're more than welcome, Jeff. Jesse wanted to give away a
I
pocket
do. Real quick.
sluice.
Let's do it.
So you know what to do, don't you?
Yeah.
Get those fingers rocking and get them talking in that chat room. Because if you're lurking, you're not in on the giveaway. Oh, and there comes ERRT Radio popping up. I'm here. Hello.
That's what we're giving away tonight,
Thank
Ed.
you, Monty. We're giving away. Let me pin you up.
Nah.
So they have to see your mug, Jesse. We're giving away a nice pocket sluice designed by Goldrad in Australia, produced
What color would you call that?
a hot pink, a reddish, a ruby.
Ooh, Ruby, yeah.
There you go.
Oh. Pocket sluices are really handy. If you guess numbers, you're automatically disqualified. We don't guess numbers here at Flash in Your Pan. I have a bot that takes care of that. But
almost a purplish color.
You do have to be active in the chat room. We have 22 eligible viewers right now. How many watching?
That's only half the people watching.
Yeah, definitely. Come on, kids. They work. It's great. You get your pocket claw and a pocket sluice in your car, and you always have something to do, some kind of sampling with.
Yep. You're gonna blow your nose in it? No.
Me. It does work.
What do you got now?
Huh? I
How many
have
people
23.
23.
Oh, come on, guys. Get some chitty
Come
chat
on,
going.
get up there, chat. Just say hi. Do something.
Hi,
I'm not gonna do it
hello.
until we get at least 30.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I watched this stinking video for 2 hours. Anything, you know. I have to say though, our guests were awesome guests tonight.
I learned a lot, you guys. There was a
And I'm serious about watching their videos. They're really cool. Some of the stuff they show you is really cool.
No, I
They haven't
didn't know he
if you
was
haven't
a
seen
pilot too. Wonder if I go to Canada if
them, give you a
he'd
ride.
give me a ride. I love to fly. Oh, I want to ask about that helicopter too. So, but hey, maybe we could get them on. Yeah, huh, Laura? Excellent, totally awesome guess.
yeah. What Willie? Are you still in here? You need to make a comment so you get into the giveaway.
Yeah, their channel's awesome, NorCal. All right. Well, I gave them a minute, so they have like 30 seconds left. So if they snooze, they lose.
No green card for you, Miss Laurel. Top Cat, what's up,
Thank
buddy?
you, Canadian Gold Mining. Top Cat, good to see you. I'm
He's been
glad you
lurking.
like it. I'm sure he's been here lurking along
Mhm.
with our buddy Two Toes. I didn't see Jeff at all, though.
Let's see, Jeff. Hey, Chad, they might get a chance to win.
All right, we have 25 eligible. Oh, wait, let me
What?
include the mods. We have 33 eligible.
There you go.
Ready? Give me a countdown. I'm not going to show it. Silence, cricket, cricket.
Oh,
I
five.
said one.
Oh, okay.
What?
That was it.
Monty Cheney.
Who?
Monty Cheney.
Monty, say you're here.
Give us a.
I agree. Who the heck?
Okay, I'm gonna give 1 minute
Yeah.
for Monty to say he's here. Monty,
Say-
are you?
Say something.
Thanks, Terry. Monty Cheney. He's here. Monty's here.
There he is.
There we go.
All right, Monty, if you'd email me at flashingyourpen@gmail.com, I will pass that on to ToledoJess and we'll get it sent out to you. Sooner the better.
Yes, the sooner the better.
Right on,
The sooner I
right
get your
on.
information, the better it'll be for me to get it out to you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was gonna say you're sending the info to Jess. I was gonna say if you're sending the info to Jess to Ed, sometimes you have to wait for editing.
Oh, whatever. Whatever.
No, not whatever, Ed. Forever.
That's with editing. I'll get the info
Ed's
right
editing.
over to you. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you, Dream Mat, Prospectors Dream, for the Dream Mat pocket sluice. Thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you, Rose and Jesse. Awesome.
Is Clinton here? Is Clinton in here?
I don't
Clint?
know. I haven't seen Dream Mat in here.
No, Clint from Gold Claw. Is he in here?
Oh, no, I haven't seen Klint in here either.
Somebody just said something. Thought I heard saw somebody say hi to Gold Claw.
Oh, down
Clint, are you in
under Dan Diving's here. Hello. I don't know. Let's see.
just asked.
At Gold. No.
No.
Don't see. He isn't active in the room. I can't
Okay.
tag him.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case,
Well, you better
Get
get
us outta
going,
here,
get
Ed.
your granddaughter before she calls and say, Pops,
Get
you
us outta
forgot
here,
me
Ed.
again. All right, everybody. Until next week. Next week, we're having Appalachian Prospectors with us, Prospector Jack and Hillbilly John. That should be another great show, of course. Make sure to hit Digging with DJ's show at 5:30, I think it is, and our friend Jersey History Hunters at 7, and then us at 8 p.m. Eastern Time every Tuesday night, going on our 4th year, and it's all because of you out there, the Flash fam. Thank you all very much. Until next week, may you always have a flash in your pan.
You know what he's
And you know what he's going to say next.
That's right, you do, because it does happen. Ask Rose. It does happen.
It really does.
Until next time, you know what? We're out of here. Good night, y'all.
Night, everybody.
Night, guys. Night, Miss Laurel.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Ert, Mark Miller, Laura. Thank you, Chrissy, Jeff Everett,
Good night, buddy. Thanks.
Gemstone Judy. See ya, a bunch of you at Flash Bash 2021.
Laura, good night. Spider Ace, good night.
Moto Mining, have a great one. Spider Ace and Mel, good night. NorCal, Miss Laurel, be good, young lady.
Good night.
Mr.
Sharon,
Lodak, thank you as always, and all the rest of our moderators.
David, Dennis, good night.
Night, Monty.
Good night, Miss Laurel.
Remember,
And-
email me, please.
And let
Yes.
that hair down.
Kind of late now.